Hi everyone, TOS Violation here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the brand new YG album, Stay Dangerous. West Coast rapper YG returns with a brand new album just 2 years after the release of his pretty fantastic Still Brazy, a sophomore record that saw the Compton native really coming into his own, with better flows, sharper hooks, more focused song topics. It's like he suddenly became twice the rapper that he was on his somewhat underwhelming debut a few years earlier, My Crazy Life. Not to mention Still Brazy featured production all over it that was a bit of a West Coast throwback. In a way reviving the 90s heyday of West Coast hip-hop and G-Funk. I loved the sound of that album, I loved what YG brought to it personally, I saw no reason for him to change lanes. But YG is clearly coming into this new album hungry, he clearly wants more of the spotlight, he seems to have a clear idea as to how he wants to go about that, and he is switching gears to do it. So yes, Stay Dangerous is a change of pace for YG, it sounds new to him. But in terms of the current hip-hop meta, it sounds old. Meaning that, for the most part, YG has pretty much delivered a generic trap album on this one, in hopes that it will most likely gain a wider appeal for his music. And maybe it will. The first week sales for this thing could be through the roof, for all I know. All I can really do is comment on what I hear, and this album pretty much sounds like YG, and the process of trying to make a more commercial album has thrown out a lot of what made him appealing as an artist originally. You only need to hear the first 2 minutes of his awkward attempt at an auto-croon ballad with Quavo on the song Slay to see that. The stories and narratives on this album generally are non-existent, or they don't seem quite as high stakes or interesting. The trap production on this record, when it does come up, is pretty bare, skeletal, basic, occasionally to the point where the beats sound kind of goofy, like on the song Big Bang, or Handgun with A$AP Rocky, or the track 2 Cocky. It was a pretty easy paycheck for whoever came through with these beats, I'll say that. I mean, occasionally the minimalism of these beats does work and it makes for a kind of interesting listening experience, but for the most part, it just takes the wind out of YG's sails. There's also a multitude of repetitive, mind-numbing, effortless hooks all over this thing. Count it up, 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 count it up. Nowhere near as sweet, compelling, or as memorable as something like Twist My Fingers. Also, the weak flows from YG all over this thing, barely even eliciting a head bob from me on tracks like 10 Times, where he just kind of has this awkward, elongated, moaning delivery that doesn't really do much. There's also a lot of trendy features all over this thing whose performances and lyrics are average at best. The only people on this thing that really sounded like they were going for it were J305, easily the best feature on the entire record, Nicki Minaj, who was pretty animated and quirky on her appearance with Big Bang, and miraculously I kinda liked the Young Boy Never Broke Again feature on 666. He really kind of fit the tone of the song, and it's easily the grimiest cut on the entire album, with YG saying anything that's bad for him, it's right here in his face, reflecting on his downward spiral of bad decisions and self-destructive behavior. There are some moments on this record that are pretty personal and pretty thoughtful, where YG reflects on the negative effects fame and his entrance into the hip-hop industry has had on his person, on his physical well-being, on his mentality. The track Deeper Than Rap is a great example of that. Kind of the same thing with the track Pussy Money Fame, which musically is one of the few tracks that vibes exactly like a song from Still Brazy, but now just the narrative, the tone, the setting has changed since YG has become this hot, in-demand rapper. There's also the Free the Homies interlude and BOMPTOWN Finest, where YG seems to be contemplating changing his trajectory because he's seen where his decisions have also landed his friends. And also seeing the way that his life changes and his fame has changed the people around him, turning some friends against him and maybe making him also think about his role as a father too. This album is actually pretty good when YG uses his knack for storytelling to approach the life shift that hip-hop has brought him. And even though it's a pretty familiar trope at this point, it is compelling to see him struggle to make this decision between unnecessarily continuing forward with this life that he used to live, and then also the path, the choice, the option that the music world has provided him. Sadly, moments like this only make up a sliver of the album. A lot of the material on here just feels like really general rap bangers with more posturing than a narrative. Songs where YG seems to be at a total loss for anything interesting to say. Too Cocky, Handgun Again, also the song Bulletproof. Unfortunately, this album presents an all too familiar scenario for artists who have gained popularity in the music industry. They either get a taste of fame or they hit it big and they want to maintain that popularity or make it larger, so they hop on a prevailing trend, they water down their sound to the point where the new album is bland as hell and the artist sounds like a lesser version of their former selves. There are a handful of good tracks on this album toward the end. A great deal of the material up until that point is at least listenable, but given the quality of his last album, I'm kind of shocked that YG would drop an album that is this generic. Because even on My Crazy Life, as flawed as that album was, I at least got the sense that he was trying to make something of substance. This time around, not so much. I'm feeling a decent to strong 5 on this thing. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, YG, forever.